Welcome to the Stewartby Lake near Bedford, where we recently saw the crowning of the Powerboat GP 2014 Sprint Champions. Well, now we're back for the final rounds of the British Championships. For the headlining Formula 2 catamaran, the sprint races also counted towards the British title. So when Paul Balfour roared to his third consecutive win, he ensured he came here to the final round with a commanding championship lead. By winning 4 rounds out of 4, Ben Morse wrapped up the Formula 4S catamaran title back in July and will be looking to remain unbeaten in 2014. In the GT30 monohulls, an early season clash between Jess Stoneman and Charlotte Newton looks like it's left the door open for Ben Jelf to steal the crown. Which will be of some comfort to him, as after a 4-year domination, Thomas Mantrip looks to steal his British junior title. While the Jelf-Mantrip battle at the head of the field is bound to be the focus of attention, life in the chasing midfield pack is always more than a little hectic. And someone who knows all about that is Harvey Smith, with 2 best results so far of 5th overall. But today, Harvey, 3rd on the grid. Where's this extra speed come from?
Me and my dad have been testing a lot of times through the weeks, and we've just kind of found the prop we have stuck to.
What about today, though, now? You see, there's a little championship going on between little Mr. Mantrip and Mr. Jelf. Now, if you get in between those, you might affect the outcome of the championship. Who are you going to help today?
I'm not going to help anyone but myself.
Good. So you're going to get stuck in there. Good start. Podium.
Yes. I'm not going to take any prisoners.
The odds are against Ben Jelf retaining his British Championship, but a vital point for yet another pole position was a good start. One more championship point. Mr. Mantrip has to finish 3rd or higher, so have you been buying sweets for your friends?
No, not yet. I might try it a bit later, though.
I mean, Harvey Smith's up there now, Elliot's quite quick, so it's still possible, another junior crown.
Maybe, but it just all comes down to when the actual race.
Mind you, championship leader Thomas Mantrip didn't seem too concerned.
Well, it'd be nice to win, but I've just got to hold them off, and we think we'll be quick enough to hold the 2nd, maybe even be 1st. As always, there are 3 heats, with points awarded for each race to decide the winner. So it's time for us to join our race commentator, Jason Mantrip, to see how the first 2 junior heats went.
Bexley Nunn was the final boat then to join the full grid of GT15s for their final round of the 2014 GT15 action for Powerboat GP. But it was Ben Jelf with it all to play for. He knew that he had to try and beat Thomas Mantrip, and he knew that Mantrip needed a bad result really if Jelf was to become British champion this year. It's Jelf's final year in the GT15 Championship. He moves on to other things. The first corner though, Jelf maintained his lead. He had that pole position from the start from qualifying, and he now maintains it first round the corner. Thomas Mantrip was to take 2nd position at the start of the race, and a very strong position from Harvey Smith in 3rd position. He's improved immensely over 2014. But it was Jelf who was out in front, pulling up a massive gap between himself and Thomas Mantrip in 2nd position. Mantrip knew that he only had to drive sensibly over the weekend to clinch the title. But Jelf was out there with something to prove this weekend. He knew that the championship would be a bit of a tall order, but he would at least like to go out in GT15 winning the final round. So in Heat 1, it all worked well for Jelf, and he took the checkered flag. On to Heat 2 with Jelf once again in that pole position with Mantrip lining up next to him. Mantrip knows that he's almost got the job done, but it was Harvey Smith who once again, having that excellent third position result from Heat 1, proving himself very much so in this final race at Stewartby in Bedfordshire. All the GT15s once again got away, and Jess Beaumont in her final race in the GT15 for 2014. So a bit of sadness really to lose Jess Beaumont, but back to the action, and it was Jelf under massive threat from Mantrip in this second heat. Mantrip knows that he mustn't do anything silly though, and it would be pointless trying to attack Jelf, but Jelf making sure that he's way out in front, the rest of the field actually follow through, and it looks very, very close action from these GT15s, but it's Harvey Smith having the drive of his life at the moment, but unfortunately he had let Beaumont through on the inside. She's up into third. Jelf continued to lead the race in heat number 2, pulling up a massive gap once again over Mantrip towards the closing stages of the race. But Jelf had done enough then to make it 2 out of 2. So we look at the results then, with 2 straight wins from Ben Jelf gives him 800 points. Mantrip is second with 720. Harvey Smith, an excellent drive in third position with 616 points.
Ben, the first 2 heats went to plan for you, but unfortunately nobody's getting ahead of Thomas behind you.
No, just about. I just need that little bit of people just to get there.
A second heat though, he was alongside on the opening lap. You had to sort him out a bit at the end of the lap.
Yeah, ended up having to push him a little bit onto the end, but and just sort of went into the lead at that point.
Thomas, if I could just interrupt you for a moment, Thomas, is this your way of relaxing before this tense final heat where you could become British junior champion?
Yeah, well, I've only got to finish third or above in the overall points, so it should be easy. I've already had 2 seconds, so I could afford to get a 4th, maybe a 5th.
Jess, another weekend of rather lowly qualifying, but some fantastic fights up through the field, and third in that second heat.
I know, it was good. It took a lot of practice and racing, but I think it was worth it. It was a good race.
Harvey, heat 1 you held your own, and heat 2 you got Jessed. What happened there?
She just came up on my inside and I just couldn't catch her. She pushed me, she blocked me a lot of times, but I just couldn't catch up. But it's okay, I know this time I'm going to catch her.
While Ben Morse has already wrapped up the British Formula 4S catamaran title, the battle is still very much on for runners-up slot. And the man closest to Ben Morse at the World Championship of Nottingham was the fast-improving Sam Whittle. Sam was tremendous at Nottingham. You seem to have found the key to speed, and you were right with Ben Morse. It was a great weekend for you.
Yeah, it was really good. Spent a lot of time doing the weights, working with props. Had 45 minutes of free practice, which helped me get more time in the boat. So all came together.
And you're always playing with these trims up and trims down. It's quite busy in the cockpit.
Yeah, you've got 2 fingers on the trim buttons, working in and out, trying to get the fastest point, and working on the corner, trying to get a smooth line and hope for the best.
Just getting up there is more important to you than the championship, I guess, at the moment.
Yeah, hopefully I can try and get second or third in the championship overall. Would be nice. Nice finish on a season high, so that's what I'm aiming for.
Well, the boat looks splendid in its colours, and we'd like to see you here, and good luck for the weekend.
Cheers, thank you.
And as if to prove Nottingham was no fluke, Sam was just 1/10 of a second slower than Morse in qualifying.
I think it's getting the weights sorted out now, putting the weight in the right place and props working and me driving it better, more time on the boat, so it's all coming towards the end of the season, which is really good.
All of which left Ben concerned that the clean sweep would be no formality. Ben, you sort of want to win 5 out of 5, but there's this like Whittle who's 1/10 of a second back. He followed you at Nottingham for the whole races, and now he's there again.
Yeah, you know, Sam and the team at Powertech have obviously been putting a lot of work in. maybe we've not been putting enough work in. He's getting closer and closer as the races go on, so like you say, it'd be nice to make it 5 out of 5, but he's obviously got other ideas.
Mike Pillow qualified third, but over a second slower than the youngsters ahead of him.
I've got not really any quicker and they've gone quicker. It's as simple as that. I think they've been spending money and I haven't got to spend, so.
Amid all this male testosterone, Natalie Craddock was quietly planning how to hold on to second place in the championship. So do you think you can hold off these two? You're fourth in qualifying. Can you keep that points advantage against Mick?
Yeah, as far as I know, as long as I finish behind him overall this weekend, I can keep seconds overall.
So on to heat number 1 for the F4S at Stewartby. And Sam Whittle with a very, very strong grid position. He started second on the grid, but it was Ben Morse who was in that pole position, and a disastrous start was to happen for Natalie Craddock. A disappointing start for her. She's been dogged with problems all season getting away from the start grid. Sam Whittle also seems to be a little bit slow away from that start, as everybody else made their way up towards the first turn. Rob Veers, who'd had an excellent 2014 season, enters his final race of the year. Ben Morse, though, was first round the turn as predicted. His 2014 season championship really was won at the previous round. And really, Morse then out for the drive, but not wanting to be beaten. Sam Whittle, much, much more improved as the season has progressed. An excellent drive, as Tiff said earlier, at Nottingham in the World Championships, and he's bringing some of that form really back to Stewartby Lake for this final round. But it was Ben Morse who was to lead the first heat in number 97, and a victory then for Morse in heat 1. We look down at heat number 2 and the start, as ever, with the additional entry from Matt Palfreyman in boat number 15. Once again, a bad start from Sam Whittle. Disappointment for him as he was left on the start grid. But it was Ben Morse who got the clean sweep away from the start grid as they rocketed up towards that first turn. Natalie Craddock, a much better start from her in heat number 2. By the time they arrived to the top, Whittle had already caught up to some of the tail enders, so he was pushing hard in this second race. But Morse taking all advantage of having the clear water out in front, and once again proving why he is the national champion of 2014. Mike Pillow was in a strong second position and some close racing between 15 and 88. That's Palfreyman and also Natalie Craddock. Craddock could finish second in the national championships here this weekend, which would be a great effort in her first season of F4S racing. So as Ben Morse went away off into the distance, Whittle could only watch as he struggled to get past some of the other drivers in the F4S race. Mike Pillow with that very strong second position, he knew that he just needed to keep Natalie Craddock at bay and just looking at her in his mirrors. But a nice battle was to happen then, really, between Craddock, Palfreyman and Whittle, as Whittle was trying to work his way up through the field. Good defensive driving from these three, but the checkered flag was brought out and the race very quickly over, with Ben Morse taking another victory. So Ben Morse is top of the leaderboard with 800 points, with Mike Pillow second, 684 points, and Sam Whittle third after 2 heats, 652 points.
Hopefully the wind will keep blowing and that helps me a lot. Most of them drop about 1.5 seconds in the wind and I drop about half a second. The extra weight helps.
Ben, 2 heat wins so far, but Mr. Pillow thinks that a Force 9 gale is going to come along and he's going to defeat you.
Obviously he was a bit closer to me in the wind this morning, but I think I still had him at the distance I wanted him at, so hopefully I could just go out and do the same in the last heat.
Not the best start in that first heat, put you back slightly, but battled forward in the second heat.
Yeah, it was good fun in the second heat. I had Matt and Rob at the start and then Sam all the way around as well, so it's a bit difficult.
Sam, great qualifying, but not so good at the starts.
No, it wasn't the same start as previous races at the beginning of the season, so I was really annoyed, so I hope I could start this time.
So while Ben looks well on his way to a clean sweep in 2014, it's still anyone's guess who's going to be runner-up. Make sure you do us after the break when we return with the GT30 and Formula 2 catamaran heats. Welcome back to Powerboat GP, where it's time to turn our attention to the GT30 monohulls, where 3 girls are vying for the honour of being runner-up to runaway points leader Ben Jelf. Now, first of all, ladies, am I missing something? Is black the in colour or something this year? Or... But now look, Jess, first of all, mathematically, you could still win the championship. I think you have to sink Ben Jelf at the first corner.
I'd have to probably shoot my cousin's boat, but I can't do that.
Which means, Charlotte, that she's going to be a bit tentative at the first corner, so you can pounce, because you need to win this in order to grab the runners-up spot away from Jess. So what's the plan?
To get round the first turn quicker than Ben and try and hold him off.
And Abby, you're the new girl on the block this year. You're the novice, but you've been catching these 2 up. You're not that far behind now, 4th on the grid, but do you think you can get in this pack?
Now I've got the new pink boat, it's going a bit quicker, so hopefully I'll be able to keep up with them a bit more.
As expected, Ben Jelf took pole position just over a second faster than Charlotte, with Jess and Abby virtually tied for 3rd, only half a second behind her.
On to the GT30 action of the weekend, with Ben Jelf making that pole position, and it's all important for the championships as far as he's concerned. So they all pull away from the start grid, and Jelf had a good start, as did Jess Stoneman. The boat's then going up towards that first turn, but it was Jelf who was to pull out in front. But a good scrap was to happen between the 2 ladies of Abby Brewer in boat number 8 and Jess Stoneman on the inside in 49. But it was Jelf who was to make it up to the turn first and rounds it clearly. The rest of the ladies followed, including Charlotte Newton in number 27. She'd had an excellent year this year. Jelf, meanwhile, looking in the mirrors just to see where the battle was going to come from. But he needn't worry, because these 3 ladies were having a scrap all on their own. Spectators looked on, but the red flag was brought out, and an incident between 2 boats of Abby Brewer and Jess Stoneman brought the race to a stop. On to the restart, and just 2 boats in this restart. Of course, the other 2 unable to continue. But it was Ben Jelf on the restart who got the clean sweep once again up towards the first turn, and in fact went on to win the first heat of the GT30 class, with Charlotte Newton finishing in 2nd. On to heat 2, and Jess Stoneman returns back in the race in a boat number 49 after the problem in heat number 1. But it was Jelf who was in that pole position from the earlier win as the boats pulled away from the start grid, with Charlotte Newton starting in the middle on that 2nd position on the start grid. But once again, as predicted, Jelf was first away, with Charlotte Newton following pretty closely in the wake, and Stoneman back in action. They all charged up towards the first turn, and Charlotte Newton looked very impressive by the time they arrived at the top. But Jelf used all his experience in this battle to hold off Charlotte Newton. Jelf, his unique style of leaning forward to keep the boat on the water in what can be tricky conditions here at Stewartby Lake. And in fact, Jess Stoneman was also to find it a little bit rough and bumpy in that 3rd position. But Jelf, a clear lead from him, calm water for him out in front, with the 2 ladies in the wake. All they could do really was follow in his rooster tail. And Jelf, a quick glance behind as he leans forward, with his chin almost on the front of the boat, knows that he has just 1 or 2 more laps left and then he will have made it 2 out of 2. Stoneman, one final attempt really at trying to keep as close to the turnboys as possible. But Charlotte Newton looks behind, and she knew that her position in second place was pretty secure. Jelf, round at the top. He knows that there's not many more laps left in the race. And in fact, now it comes down towards the start-finish line. He can see the checkered flag, and Jelf will take the victory. It's 2 out of 2 for him. So Ben Jelf, their maximum of 800 points, with Charlotte Newton in second overall, 722 points, and Jess Stoneman, 324 points.
Ben, whilst the junior title might be slipping away, it looks like you're going to be GT30 champion in your first year of the series. 2 heats down, all going well.
So far it's going well. All I've got to do is just finish the last heat and then it's sort of home run.
You've really come into your own in these GT30s. You're enjoying driving them?
I quite enjoyed driving these. A bit different experience to what the GT15 normally is.
Charlotte, a good 2 second places in those heats, but with Jess coming out for that second heat, it looks like she's going to still grab third for the weekend, and you're going to miss that runners-up spot by 1 point.
Yeah, it's been a hard race all year, but it's just the luck.
But going really well at the end of the season. You've got 1 more heat to come before the end of your year. Do you think you can finally beat this Jelf boy?
I don't know, but I'll just see what happens.
When it comes to the headlining Formula 2 catamaran class, there was never any doubt that there would have to be a new champion this year, as the outgoing champion, Malcolm Goodman, took a step back from the sport to concentrate on having his second child. So Malcolm, first of all, good news, second child?
Yeah, we had James at the end of last year, so he's doing good.
And you're back then now for this last round of the year. What was the idea behind that?
I just got a phone call a few weeks ago whether I'd like to come down and take part, so I said yeah, get me back in the boat. Unfortunately, the boat's not doing what we was hoping it was going to do.
Well, it's an endurance boat, I understand, so it's a heavier boat than the competitors.
Yeah, it's an endurance boat. It's obviously not built for these kind of courses, but we're out there, we're getting it wet, so see how it goes.
Now, what about the course here? It's a different course to the one they used for the Sprint Championships a while back. How's the challenge of this circuit now?
Yeah, of course, it's okay. It's a bit difficult for overtaking on, but I'm not close enough to overtake at the moment, so it doesn't matter.
Well, anyway, you may not be the sharp end of the field this weekend. It's great to see you back.
Thank you.
Not surprisingly, Malcolm was slowest of the 8 starters, with Colin Jelf grabbing pole in a dramatic qualifying session.
Oh, it's so close. Obviously, in qualifying, I was 4th until the very last lap, which we took the pole. Before then, obviously, we were struggling a little bit because we feel we've got the pace, but the others are all looking for a win as well.
Second fastest in qualifying was boat number 11, not however driven by Bimba Schulholm, but by series returnee Scott Curtis. Scott, where have you been for the last year, and what's the story about this boat?
This is my girlfriend's boat, and conveniently it's on its way to Italy from Sweden, but it's taken a bit of a detour for me to have a play in it.
But Bimba, you are aware of Scott's reputation as a bit of a wild child, are you? Are you, Bimba?
Well, yes, I am. And many people said that to me, and well, we have to take a chance and see how it goes.
So you've been doing the whole World Championship this year. How's that gone for you?
Yes, we halfway through, and I'm 5th in the world, so it's going great.
So Scott, how did it feel getting back here? The boat's very competitive. You've had, what, 1 club race before coming here?
Yeah, I did 1 quick race a couple of weeks ago, just while I was over here. So, but really, it's been a year, and last time I was in it, I was hanging upside down.
So how does it feel to get back in? Have you been missing it?
It's nice to be drying up the right way to start with, but yeah, I've done it for over 20 years, so it's nice to be back.
Just 1/100th of a second behind Scott was championship leader Paul Balfour.
Yeah, qualifying was quite difficult out there. It's quite a fast course, this, and just need to keep it safe, but work really quick enough, really.
A welcome return to F2 racing for Malcolm Goodman in boat number 1 and Scott Curtis in boat number 11 had been missing in action all throughout 2014. But it was Colin Jelf who set the initial pole position in qualifying, who got a good start, as did his brother Owen Jelf. And by the time they all got up towards the top there, Jelf had squeezed out quite a few drivers, including Steve Holt, who was running pretty high up himself. But Colin Jelf was to clearly lead the race out in front there as he rounds the turn. Balfour was also in the mix. He too could be national champion of 2014 if he plays his cards right in this race. But Jelf then dropping back down the field as Balfour is the race leader in number 29. Colin Jelf then was to have a problem, and Scott Curtis was to make some fret on Jelf's position. Balfour then the race leader in boat number 29, out in front in the all-wooden boat. It's been a pretty close run thing between Balfour and Colin Jelf this season. Neither one of them could take away the championship on this final round. Owen Jelf, who goes away to the international races, taking time out then to do this final round at Stewartby Lake. But it was Paul Balfour who was to take the first win of the day and takes the checkered flag. It's looking good for him so far. Onto the second heat with Balfour in the pole position. And all three boats very tightly squeezed on the grid. And it was Jelf who got the jump just on Steve Holt by the time they went up towards the first turn. But Alan Marshall was the surprise really in Heat 2, because he came from nowhere, from the back end of the grid, to move up quite a way through the field into third position. Scott Curtis was also to pick his way through and finds himself side by side with Colin Jelf. Holt, an excellent drive from him, keeping himself ahead of Marshall. As Scott Curtis and Mark Williams found themselves in a little bit of a scrap, both of those drivers surprised to be ahead of the ever-aggressive Colin Jelf. Jelf obviously was to struggle with problems throughout the weekend, but Balfour knows that this is more to his advantage than anybody else's, because he can now see the national championship coming ever closer to him. Steve Holt, in the meantime, was to put on a good show to chase in that second position, and he knows one mistake from him and Alan Marshall will be knocking on the door. And the retirement was to happen for Malcolm Goodman, who pulls out of the race. Balfour still continued to lead as he approached the right-hander and sets himself up for another race victory. One more corner to go and the checkered flag is waved, and Balfour makes it 2 out of 2. So the leaderboard looks like this. Paul Balfour has 800 points, with Steve Holt on 684 points and Alan Marshall third, 560 points.
Yeah, well, the best place to be is out in the front if you can, so we always try for that. And if it wasn't going to be that way, you kind of take second choice and keep it safe. But up to now, it's gone. You know, it's gone to plan. Couldn't be any better.
The final heat, you'll still go for it if you can.
Yeah, always try. Always try.
Colin, 2 disastrous starts in the heats. What's going wrong?
It's really not working out for us this weekend. Obviously, you've got to get the start to get a good position in the race, and literally we're going up to the first corner. We're all out of shape for us. It's really not working. So we're going to try a different prop for the last heat, because really this meeting's over for us.
Scott, stop fiddling about with your boat now. What's that all about? 2 not so good starts have dropped you down the field.
That's the main problem with it. It's quick when it goes, but the race is kind of over after the first straight, unfortunately.
The trouble is, as soon as you make half a bad start, you're completely washed out. You can't see anything, can you?
No, you've got water for wall one side, water for a wall on the other side, and then your space that you're supposed to be there is already gone. So you're kind of a bit of hoping and praying that it comes through the other side.
And happened again in the second. So can you change the boat to make the better start, or is it just you a bit rusty, Scott?
No, I think it's you got your finger on the button that just want to go. I think the batteries have kind of had their day at the moment.
Steve, you wait until the last round of the championship to bring back some of that form we saw last year. Going really well, these 2 heats.
Yeah, it went really well. We finished the end of the season, like you said, on a high. So we were quite confident over the winter that we'd perform quite well, but everybody else did. So they upped the game as well. So we were on the back foot for the first 2 rounds. and we've done a few changes with the boat and the propellers and that, and now we've got where it is.
Alan, fifth on the grid in an incredibly competitive qualifying session, and now working your way up after the second heat, third. It's podium possible.
It's a possibility, but we don't count our chickens, do we, Tiff? I've got a new prop though, so it's a smaller prop than I usually run, and it was giving me a few more RPM going up the straight.
Splashing out on the budget at the end of the season, have you?
No, if my wife watches, no. It was a free propeller.
Well, that's the first two heats run. Make sure you join us after the break when the Powerboat GP finals get underway. Welcome back to the Stewartby Lake near Bedford for the first of our Powerboat GP finals. The juniors are all lined up on the grid ready for their start, so it's time for us to rejoin our race commentator, Jason Mantrip.
Elliot Fleet, who has had a good season so far in 2014, finds himself rather surprisingly on the far end of the grid. Obviously problems throughout the day for young Elliot, but nevertheless he gets a good pull away from the start. But really the story is between Ben Jelf in number 4 and Thomas Mantrip, and notably Thomas Mantrip did not get a very good start and he's way down the field in the thick of things, but he should hook up a good turn by the time they arrive at the top there. But Harvey Smith, he really is the driver of the day, because that third position in qualifying has reflected pretty much his weekend so far, as they all come down the racecourse with Jelf clearly in the lead. Harvey Smith you can see just to the left of the picture, and Mantrip on a strong drive defending his second position, and Jess Beaumont in 22 is next. She is in about 4th position as they go around the first lap and on to lap number 2, and Jelf then out in front. Mantrip knows that if he stays where he is, he will be more than happy with that, because he will become national champion of 2014, and this man will be very disappointed. Ben Jelf, whose reign really of being British champion will come to an end. Harvey Smith knows that he's got all this to look forward to in his up and coming years of GT15 racing, as the maestro really, Ben Jelf, moves on to other things into the GT30 class. But for now he does win the final heat, but it does mean that Thomas Mantrip, who finishes in second just ahead of Harvey Smith, will become British national champion of 2014. But the weekend really was Ben Jelf's, with a maximum of 1,200 points, with Thomas Mantrip second overall with 1,080 points, and Harvey Smith an excellent drive with 940 points.
Thomas Mantrip, British junior champion. How does that feel?
Can't put it into words, I'm just overwhelmed.
And what was all this waving with a lap to go? You seem to think you'd already won it.
They had the flag out ready for the next lap, but I thought that was the last lap, but long celebrations.
And it will be celebrations all round for Thomas Mantrip, who's spent a few years trying, but he becomes British champion, with Ben Jelf finishing second overall in the season, with Jess Beaumont, top of the girls, finishing in 3rd. Smiles all round then for Thomas Mantrip, who is the number 1.
On then to the Formula 4 final, where the question isn't so much who's going to win, it's who's going to be the runner-up in the F4S Championship.
As we look down on the final race for the F4Ss for this season, they pull away from the start, and Ben Morse, who really is out for the drive, but Sam Whittle didn't get a very good start once again, and that was bad news for him in this final race. And Ben Morse then did get the start, and so did Natalie Craddock, and that's very important for this 3rd and final heat. As they all go up towards the top there, Rob Veers also in number 18. He has also had a good year in this season of powerboat racing for F4S. But as we look now at the picture as they come round the right-hander, Ben Moore's clearly out in front in the lead, and would you believe the gap that he's got over that second position boat? And really, everyone else has to follow in the wake of Morse. Sam Whittle trying to recover really from that bad start which he got, and once again it's really been the story of his weekend here so far at Stewartby. But now this is important as well, because we look at number 88, Natalie Craddock, who is just ahead of Matt Palfreyman in number 15 as they go up towards the top. Then she's in second position in the race, which is brilliant news for her, because it will mean that if she stays where she is, she will actually finish second overall in the national championships, which is an enormous effort really from her and the team for her first season in F4S class. And look at the way she holds off Matt Palfreyman, and Matt really quite a way up the field in that old style boat. But Ben Morse leading the final race round the pit turn, and everyone else still chasing hard, and Sam Whittle is thinking whatever has gone wrong really this weekend. Fine form at Nottingham, and unfortunately not really on top form in this final race. But 88, Natalie Craddock, is on fine form in that very, very strong second position. But look at the lead, unbelievable stuff, almost in a league of his own, isn't he? Ben Morse, as he comes down towards the pit turn, trims the boat in, lifts it up. There's a little space between the two turn boys at the pit turn, and he wheelies, and that's to acknowledge the checkered flag, and makes it 3 out of 3. It does give him a maximum then of 1,200 points, winning the day, with Mike Pillows second with 976 points and Natalie Craddock third.
Natalie, your last race of the season, probably your best, and surely now runner-up in the championship.
Yeah, not a bad way to end the first season, is it?
Sam, a weekend started with so much promise, but another bad start, and then you seem to be wanting to go swimming half the time.
I was just pushing it too hard. I was going for that third and second place, get up from the podium, and unfortunately I'd done a bit of a nosedive nearly enough. So, like I said, the right way up, but that's racing.
It's been an excellent year then for Ben Morse, who finishes top of the leaderboard with 104 points, winning the British Championship, with Natalie Craddock second with 73 points, and third place Mike Pillow with 71 points. So Ben Morse takes to the top step to become the British champion.
So the top 3 in the Formula 4S Championship have finally been sorted. Make sure you join us after the break when it's time for the GT30 and Formula 2 Catamaran finals. Welcome back to Bedford, where the Formula 2 Catamarans are preparing for their final heat, but the GT30s are already on the grid, as we rejoin our race commentator, Jason Mantrip.
The final action from the GT30 drivers this year, unfortunately a little bit of a depleted field, but nevertheless still very, very free young competitive drivers out there, all from the ex-GT15 days. Rivals then, rivals now in GT30. But Ben Morse then, first away and first up to the top. And the two girls, Charlotte Newton, who has had an excellent year in GT30, along with Jess Stoneman, who's also had a very, very good year. These two have been scrapping it out all season. A battle between the girls, but Ben Jelf in his debut year also in GT30 class, who actually takes it very, very wide at the top there. But he knows that he will become the British champion of GT30s by the end of the weekend. But the girls are out to try and stop him, making it a complete sweep of things as we go into the turn. Round the pit turn then, as they just hit a little bit of backwash there. Charlotte Newton takes the lead effectively, with Jelf relegated then to second position. And what's going on there? Because Jelf then, obviously, a little bit of a problem as Newton goes through into the lead. So number 4 takes it very, very wide, and in fact Jess Stoneman now looking to possibly take through second position there. With Ben Jelf out very, very wide, and by the time they approach the top turn with Jess Stoneman, she backed off a little bit then. She knows it's going to get a bit rough and choppy, but now she tries to cut through on the inside of Jelf on the exit. But you can see Charlotte Newton out in front, walking away with this race at the moment, the third and final heat of the weekend, and it will be an excellent ending for her season of GT30 action if she goes through to win the final race. So 27, Charlotte Newton out in front with a gap now. Look at that, that's actually pulling away now, Ben Jelf from Jess Stoneman in that second and third position scrap. So Jelf, I think Jelf now actually feeling hungry for another win. But Charlotte Newton, I think, has done enough in this race to win the final race of the 2014 season, with Jelf finishing in second and Jess Stoneman third. But it was Ben Jelf who was to win the day with 1,160 points, with Charlotte Newton finishing in second and Jess Stoneman was third.
A bit frustrating. At the beginning of the year, you were a potential champion and then things went a bit wrong, but nice to have a win.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to be out there in the position.
Ben Jelf, British GT30 champion, but you thought you'd let the girl win this time?
I wasn't going to push the boat this time. All I needed to do was just finish this race, so I'm just settled for the second position.
Ben Jelf becomes British Sprint champion with 100 points, closely followed by Jess Stoneman with 78 points in second, and third was Charlotte Newton with 77 points. Congratulations then goes to Ben Jelf in his first year of GT30 racing.
Time then for the final of 2014 for the ever-spectacular Formula 2 catamarans. Red lights are on and they're off.
And away we go for the final race of the year for the British National Championships. And Paul Balfour, another good start from him, and it's Steve Holt really who loses out that time. As they go up towards the first turn, you can see how much ground there that Steve Holt actually lost as Balfour and Alan Marshall charge up towards the top there, with Mark Williams actually running right beside the leaders as well in boat number 49. And Steve Holt then trying to salvage something back now, but he's got some stiff opposition really just ahead of him. Scott Curtis just to the right of the picture there, and Scott will make that DAC very, very wide. And he'll make it very hard for Steve Holt to try and get through. But look at this new investment in propellers from Alan Marshall, a wise choice really. So Marshall chasing hard in second position. Let's have a look at this. This is two ex-F4 drivers having a good scrap between Scott Curtis and Mark Williams, both F4 world champions in their own right. But this time it's Mark Williams finding himself just ahead of Scott Curtis, who is this weekend, as you see, in a borrowed boat. But it is really good to see Curtis back out there in the mix of things at the moment. But Steve Holt then. Now, Steve Holt on a bit of a charge, but there's a lot of stiff opposition ahead of him, with Marshall still running in that second position and Mark Williams regaining some form in that third place. And the question is, why is Colin Jelf so far down the field? He's right out of sync, right out of position where we really would expect him to be. This was the man who went into the final round a potential national champion. But it's this man, Paul Balfour then, out in front at the moment, and he knows it's almost job done for him. And another championship title will go his way if all ends well here at Stewartby Lake. Curtis then with another attempt to try and pass ex-rival Mark Williams as they run up towards the top there. And Colin Jelf is out of the race. That's a retirement. So number 4, the canopy slightly lifts up. That means he's okay, but obviously the boat isn't a mechanical problem, and this will make Paul Balfour's day, I'm pretty sure, as he rounds the pit turn once more as we go towards the closing stages now of the race, and Jelf is out of it. So just like Malcolm Goodman did in heat number 2, Jelf then becomes a retirement. So back with the battle with Scott Curtis and Mark Williams. Williams is just up ahead, but it's Paul Balfour who is in the lead overall at the moment. So round down towards the final corner then, with Paul Balfour out in front. And this is where he can now start to relax in 2014, because the checkered flag is out and Paul Balfour wins the final race of the day. It's enough then for him to win overall the meeting with 1,200 points, with Steve Holt second, 946 points, and third, Alan Marshall, 920 points.
Paul Balfour, British Formula 2 champion again.
Yeah, cheers, yeah.
It's been a few years since you last had this title.
Yeah, it's a few years now with Malcolm running the last couple of years, yeah.
But it's been a tremendous weekend for you. You've just dominated the whole week.
Yeah, it didn't go too well in qualifying, but after the first heat, it made it a little bit easier winning the first heat, so yeah, pleased with that.
So Paul Balfour wins the British National Championships in 2014 in a boat which he calls Boris with 99 points. Colin Jelf was second with 76 points and Steve Holt was third with 67 points. So what a year it's been for Paul Balfour, close till the end as he takes to the top step of the podium.
Well, that's all from Powerboat GP for 2014. It's been another cracking year for a sport that's on the up and up. Make sure you join us next year when we'll all be back for more.